95% of your murderers and murder victims fit one MO. You can just take the description, Xerox it, and pass it out to all the cops. They are male, minorities, 15 to 25. That's true in New York, it's true in virtually every city. And that's where the real crime is. You've got to get the guns out of the hands of the people that get killed. So you want to spend the money, put a lot of cops in the street, put those cops where the crime is, which means in minority neighborhoods. So it's one of the unintended consequences is people say, oh my God, you are arresting kids for marijuana, they're all minorities. Yes, that's true. Why? Because we put all the cops in the minority neighborhoods. Yes, that's true. Why we do it? Because that's where all the crime is. And the way you get the guns out of the kids' hands is to throw them up against the wall and frisk them. And then they say, oh, I don't want that, I don't want to get caught, so they don't bring the gun. They may still have a gun, but they leave it at home.
So what you just heard there were some leaked audio remarks by former New York mayor and current Democratic presidential candidate Michael Bloomberg. And he made those remarks in 2015, and ever since then, he's tried to prevent that clip from seeing the light of day. And now we really get a sense why, because what Bloomberg said and how he said it reveals a man perfectly comfortable with discrimination, perfectly comfortable with prejudice, perfectly comfortable with profiling, perfectly comfortable with using force against minority communities and racialized communities. And he's perfectly comfortable and he's perfectly aware of the consequences, direct and indirect, of that discrimination against marginalized communities. And this clip is important regardless of the context. Bloomberg, as the former mayor of one of the world's largest and most important cities, having these views, that's something regular people need to know and absorb, to realize that our most powerful leaders hold these truly abhorrent views. But Bloomberg is running for president right now, and so these remarks have an elevated consequence. And if you look at recent national polling, a new Quinnipiac poll that came out just today shows Bernie Sanders in a strong first place, 8 points ahead of Joe Biden. But only 2 points behind Biden is Michael Bloomberg, and Bloomberg is surging in this poll. And if you look at the question of who is seen as being able to defeat Donald Trump, Michael Bloomberg is surging there as well. And on hypothetical polling matchups, Trump versus some of the leading Democrats, Michael Bloomberg is right at the top near Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders when it comes to the projected ability to defeat Donald Trump in November. All of that shows that Michael Bloomberg, more than anybody else, has positive momentum right now, due in large part to the fact that Joe Biden is seen as flailing. His campaign is in free fall, and a lot of neoliberal types are looking for an alternative, and at the national level, they're moving gradually over to Michael Bloomberg from Biden. But one particular set of numbers in that poll shows that Michael Bloomberg is surging, especially among African Americans. In this poll, Michael Bloomberg is up substantially among African American voters, while Joe Biden is in absolute freefall. Bernie Sanders is up a little bit, but he's more or less steady, showing that Michael Bloomberg seems to be benefiting among black communities from Joe Biden's collapse. Because as we know, one of Joe Biden's firewalls was strong support among black Americans throughout the country, but especially in some of the later voting states, where it was felt that that would be the thing that gave him the edge over Bernie Sanders. And we see that community moving over towards Bloomberg. But this sort of clip really lays bare the consequences that Michael Bloomberg would have for communities of color all across the United States. We sort of knew this stuff. Michael Bloomberg was the stop and frisk mayor, which basically allowed police without any cause or any reason or any rationale or any sense of justice to stop people and violate their personal space and civil liberties, to quote unquote stop crime before it happens. And of course, unsurprisingly, certain groups of people, based on economic and social and racial reasons, were stopped more than others. And Bloomberg in that clip calls this a quote-unquote unintended consequence. But if you actually listen to what he's saying, this is perfectly intended. The police are put in certain parts of certain cities for a reason, and they will find not just serious crimes, but they will find the sorts of things that often aren't that serious, but lead to major consequences for individuals and communities, such as minor possession issues. And Michael Bloomberg seems perfectly fine with that. So at a time where racial justice is a major priority for Democratic voters, and at a time where we're moving away from certain laws that have disproportionately criminalized minority communities, you have a man that's running for president and surging among some of those communities, doing some of the things that have harmed those communities most of all. This is tied into the fact that Michael Bloomberg opposes legalization of cannabis. That's a major issue because he admits here that stop and frisk style laws that are supposedly there to stop serious crimes will inevitably catch quote-unquote unserious crimes, and that will mean that disproportionately people that are racialized, people that are poor, people that live in the quote-unquote wrong neighborhoods will be the ones getting caught for those minor issues, and not people from white, upper middle class, and wealthy neighborhoods. Michael Bloomberg is demonstrating in this clip, and it's important because you can read about Bloomberg's policies and you can read the transcript of this. But when you hear him talk and how casual he sounds and how matter of fact it all sounds to him, you get a visceral sense that he does not give one single damn about the civil rights of minority Americans. He does not give one single damn about the rights and dignities of racialized Americans. And this is not a man fit to be president. This is not a man that is in any way an alternative to Donald Trump on issues of equality and dignity for all people, regardless of what they look like. And I can only hope that as more people see this clip, see this matter-of-fact statement by Michael Bloomberg, that he supports blatant discrimination, prejudice, and profiling of minority communities, that they will realize that Michael Bloomberg is not the pragmatic alternative to prevent Donald Trump, because in many ways he will cause the same sort of harm.